All righty, away we go. Welcome to today's call. It is Thursday, November the 7th of 2019. This is the TRC Campfire call, which is all about everything basic. So, Jessica, you are my guinea pig here today. Can you just give me a hello and let me know that things are working and that you can see me okay?
Hi, I'm actually over the phone and
Okay,
not
all right,
on
cool.
the.
All right, no big deal. I'll try to be, thank you for telling me that. I'm going to then be as articulate as I possibly can be and make sure that we talk about the basics in as clear a way. So you interject at any point in time, okay? So in other words, if I'm a little bit like confusing what I'm saying because you can't see it, just let me know, all right? Because I'm going to walk through a
Okay.
basic thing and I'm doing it in front of a whiteboard so that when you have an opportunity, Gail will give you access to the recordings and we can go from there, right? All right. So the most important thing, we just talked about this in the mastermind group with, the mastermind members, was a return to the basics. And that's what Campfire is actually all about. So when we do these bi-weekly calls, it is about the basics, period. And so when it comes to the basics, Jessica, what's your level of experience so far in the industry, just so I know what I'm dealing with since I'm going to use you for my hot seat?
I actually just got my license.
Perfect.
And doing cold calls to get leads.
Okay, perfect. All right, so stop there. Don't go into the cold calls because I want to teach you from a very basic standpoint what it's like to go after the basics, okay? So when we talk about the basics in this business, there's really just a couple of avatars or ideal clients in the real estate business. One is a seller, two is a buyer. And I put them in that order for a reason. As soon as possible, as a new agent, you want to try to control sellers. Okay. As much as people will feel like, oh, but buyers are easier and they'll make all these excuses, without listings, you wouldn't even be able to bring a buyer anyway. So it's better to try to control listings when we can. Now, having said that, we need them both. So the idea is, how can somebody new like Jessica be unique enough in this business as a rookie, right? It's a challenge. Wouldn't you agree with that?
Yeah.
Okay. So now the idea is this. When I come to try to get a buyer seller, I'm going to look back to my cheat sheet notes here. I want to make sure I'm consistent with what I was saying before. We have this concept that we talk about. There's a 1-2 punch, okay? So the first thing is called marketing, right? So tell me, what is your perception about marketing? Has Gail talked to you about marketing at all yet? Have you done anything basic on marketing?
I know that going through social media is not a good marketing, but it's something.
Okay, tell me your basic understanding of marketing and what that is. Do you have a basic definition of marketing in your head?
Advertising.
Okay, good. So we're struggling right off the bat with a basic, which is good for me to know, and which is what I would expect. In essence, marketing is just trying to get the word out there that you provide a service to sellers and buyers. Let's leave it as the most basic we can get. You have to let the world know through marketing messages. Advertising is a piece of marketing per se. It's the actual hardcore writing of the ad, putting it on social media. That could be determined as advertising. Think about marketing as more of a strategy. How is Jessica going to get out the message that she serves sellers and buyers in the Palo Alto, Palo Alto, wherever you are? How's she going to get that message out there about her offering that service? Does that make sense to you?
Uh-huh.
Okay. The number one reason for marketing in a business, which is what you have a business inside of Gail's business. The number one reason for that is so that you can get the contact information, okay, from certain people who might be thinking about selling. It's a very basic thing. We market to tell people, hey, I am out there in this area. By the way, what area do you pick so I can really give you an area? What area?
I'm focusing on the Burlingame area.
Perfect. Oh, that's right. I remember talking about this with you. So you're going to market that Jessica is a real estate agent providing services to sellers and buyers in the Burlingame market for the purpose of getting their contact information to then subsequently offer some service. Now, the idea of contacts, okay, is so that you can build what's called a database of that contact information, okay? So the number one idea is that I'm going to market to the Burlingame market, to sellers and buyers, so I can get their contact information and I can put it in my database. That's about as basic as this gets. Now, you're already thinking too deeply, which is what most agents do, and they make that mistake. They go too deep before they think about basics, meaning, oh, social media is not good. You don't even know that yet. We don't even know. We're not even at that yet because we haven't talked about the basics. And I'm going to put in parentheses here, strategy, right? Strategy. The basics are more about strategy. You're already talking about tactics. A tactic is if I post a message on Facebook. That's a tactic. But the strategy is that I need to market my services to get contact information to put into my database. You got that so far? You can ask me questions any point. Okay, good. So let's keep moving. Strategy number one is marketing. I got to know how to do business. I have to know how to do business with people I don't know and then put them in a database to do something. What? Point number two, to convert them. So the next strategy we call conversion. Okay? That's the next. This is the 1-2 punch in a strategic approach to becoming a real estate agent. Number one, to reiterate, my marketing strategy is to get the word out there so that I can get the contact info and build up a database of buyers and sellers. Once they're in my database, I must convert them. That's the whole concept. I must convert those people. So now this gets into this, now we're sort of stuck between this 1-2 punch as we look at it. So now you're going to give me something to work with. Tell me, because you told me you were cold calling somebody, which is a tactic. You were trying to cold call contacts, okay? So tell me a little bit more about what you were doing, and I'll give you this framework to work with. Go ahead. Tell me the narrative.
So I got a list of people from the street that I want from this title agent, and then I search them up, and then I call them. I go, "Hi, is this so and so?" And then if they say yes, I'll go, "Oh, hi, nice to meet you. I'm calling to introduce myself to say that like I'm a new agent and ask them if they are thinking about buying or selling or if they have anybody." And then if it's yes, then I go, "Okay, cool. May I get your email so I could send you some stuff that you could read over?" And then if they said no, then I'll be like, "Okay, can I still get your email so I could like give you like a market update once a month and give you more information?" And then that's pretty much it.
Okay, good. All right. So not bad, but it can be tightened up so much more. And let me show you how. Okay. If you're marketing to try to get these contacts, the way that you did it was you simply just bought a list, or the title rep bought you a list of contacts. So when we were talking even at the mastermind level today, we were talking about expireds and probates where you can go to services and buy a list. So you did something that was in our discussion today. You went to a title rep and you asked for what kind of a list of contacts. So marketing, okay, you can actually jump into marketing by buying lists of contacts and then trying to convert them, or you can try to attract them. So there's a lot going on here. You got a list. What was the indication that that list included what? How did you know what to ask for? What kind of a list of contacts did you ask for?
So I went on the MLS to see the streets that were sold. The house got sold the most on that street.
Okay.
And then I just give the street name to that title company, and she kind of gave me everybody who lives on that street.
Okay, good. Stop. Hold on. Stop. What made you ask her for a list of people on a street where they turned over the most? Who told you to do that?
Gail.
Okay. All right. So now that's the turnover of the street. So the parameter for avatar or ideal person, you think you were going to go for sellers there, right? Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So you said, let's go to the street that turns over the most in Burlingame, and let's start calling that street because the premise is maybe more people will sell there. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, let me show you some alternatives. So what you did was you went for seller contacts. Let me just go here. I'm going to put a seller here. I know you can't see this, but I'm going to talk through it. And you went with a list. And your list was based on turnover by street. Okay? That was your number one parameter, turnover by street. I'm going to give you some alternatives and some other ideas so that when you're thinking strategically, you can make the best use of your time. Okay? And I'm going to get into conversion in a second, but we're first saying what contacts are we after? So we have seller, list by turnover of street. The next thing is, did Gail talk to you about expireds at all?
She did mention it, and probate.
Okay, good. You're already ahead of me. Next is probate. Okay? All right, so now what I've done is I've created, and you'll be able to see this on the replay, but I'll try to be articulate because you're just on the phone. What you've done is you've come up with a strategic approach in minutes with me. We're only about 14, 15 minutes into the call, and we took what was less strategic and made it more strategic by saying the two strategies we need are marketing and conversion. One, to market you to these people, and two, to convert them from just a lead to your client. So you've identified potential sellers by a street, and Gail's told you by a context. They've already tried to sell and didn't sell. Somebody died and there may be a listing. Okay? So do you understand, Jessica, the difference between those three potential lists of contacts?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Do you see the difference between these three categories? A list of names where the turnover on the street for sales is high, expired listings, and probates. Do you see the difference?
No.
Okay, well, think. What is the difference? What's the difference between a list of people on a street versus a list of expired listings over the last month in Burlingame? Let's just start with that. What's the difference?
The difference is that the expired are trying to sell their houses, while the list is like they don't know for sure.
Perfect. The list of turnover by street is similar to probates because we don't even know if somebody died. We're not even sure whether there's real estate that needs to be sold. So of the three, what is the most certain where there'll be a conversation about real estate? State the obvious. You think I'm trying to ask you a trick question. State the obvious. Of these three, where is the most obvious place to have a conversation about a real estate listing?
The expired.
Bingo. Bingo. There's nothing else on this list that is remotely close to that certain. I am certain that in every case where there's an expired listing, there is a real estate conversation to be had. So if you were to prioritize this list, now I want you to make a decision. You have limited resources, and one of them is called time. If you were to spend a minimum amount of time calling one of these lists, which list would it be?
The expired.
Okay, so that goes to number one. So now all of a sudden, as a better strategist, we put that as number one. What is number two?
Probate.
It's not a trick question. It's your time. You tell me which of the other two you would pick as number two and why. And we'll go through it. So number one, I have a number one. You have chosen by yourself through logic, called the basics. Logic is basic. That's all it is. You've gone through this yourself, and you've chosen expireds because you're certain that you could have a discussion about a listing, which is what you're after, a seller. Of the next two, you have a list of all the names of people on a high turnover street in Burlingame, or high turnover streets, whatever, versus a list of probates, meaning people in Burlingame who are administrators of an estate where there may be real estate. Which one of those would you call as part two?
The list.
Okay, cool. Tell me why. I'll take it, and I'm just going to put two there. Why did you choose that?
Because if other people are selling, they might be wanting to sell too.
Excellent. Good enough reason. I'm done. See, these are not trick questions. The basics are very logical. The answers are already in your brain, and all I'm doing is extracting them. Would you call probates?
Yes.
Okay, good. Tell me why. What do you think you could do there? What would you accomplish there?
Maybe some people might have not paid off their mortgage before they pass, and the family member doesn't want to get that burden, so they might want to just sell it.
Wow, what a fabulous high-level answer that was. That wasn't even an entry-level answer. That was a 10. You get 5 gold stars for recognizing a reason why a probate might be scared. Somebody dies, and in fact, the reason I say it's 5 gold stars, I work with some wholesalers who absolutely have now begun to see a trend that there are a lot of people where somebody dies in the couples, a couple, somebody dies and there's not enough money to carry the mortgage, and there's panic and they have to sell quickly. So you have now gone through 3 of these and put them in an order for you. And I will accept that order, okay? I don't know how big these lists will be each time in Burlingame, but you have very clear order of things for you, which means you have come up with a strategy to market, or simply marketing is a little easier in this case because I can pull the list of the turnover from the title company. I can pull the list of expireds from MLS, or Gail has a service for it for Burlingame. I can pull the list of probates, from the courthouse, or Gail has a list. So you'd have to talk to Gail about whether or not she's providing these lists, or this is something that you would just do one by one, right? So there you have a strategy that's repeatable. Every single month, you can repeat the pursuit of these 3 lists in the geography of Burlingame. You got it?
Yeah.
So our marketing becomes simpler on the sell side because we're able to take a look at it. Let me go to the buy side, because now what we're doing is trying to balance out, okay? We're trying to balance out our database. So we want seller contacts in there, but we also want buyer contacts. Give me some ideas of how you would market to get buyers. What could you do? And this doesn't necessarily mean it's readily available to you tomorrow. I want you to think out loud with me, since you were in here first, and we're going to roll through this together. What are one of the fastest ways to meet real buyers? Remember what we did with expireds. We know where they are. We know that they were listed. We know that there's a real estate conversation. Where in our business might there be the fastest path to have a real estate conversation with a potential buyer?
I would say anywhere, just because you don't know if they're a buyer unless you talk to them.
Okay, but where? I'm asking you very specifically, physically, where? Anywhere is not acceptable for a strategy.
Yeah.
Right? So think obvious. In our business, there's an obvious place where buyers come. Where? Physically. They come physically. Where is it?
Our office?
Nope. Random buyers, random contact buyers come to what? An open house. You follow me?
Yes.
Buyers come to open houses all the time. Every week. Some slow, some fast. Open house. Where else could a buyer come? Anywhere. Like anywhere where they could come. We'll try to get to 3 of the top 3 so that all we're going to end up with is 6 things that we can repeat over and over. Laura, cheat to it. I got an open house. Where else do buyers come from for a new agent who doesn't necessarily have past clients? Where else could they come from?
Your sphere of influence.
Okay, sphere of influence is another one. Okay? And we'll talk about what that really means in a second. Another one. Anybody else on the call want to help Jessica, who's my hot seat guest because she was in here first? Anybody? Give me one more that's an obvious place where contact with buyers could happen. Anybody? Andy, Alan, anybody? I don't know who else is on because I can't see the whole list. Nothing. Nobody else has any ideas. You have no idea where else you could find a buyer. Open houses, sphere of influence. Where else?
Can you get contacts through like the Zillow app or something like that?
Sure, you could buy them. There's no doubt about it. You could buy buyer leads, but I want to try to keep this low cost and the easiest thing we do before we go spending a lot of money on Zillow is very expensive for a new agent. It's cost prohibitive and it's a mistake. So as a coach, in good faith, I would never recommend that or an expensive website. I've got to think about basics. It's okay to think digital, but don't think heavy payment. Anybody else alive here today besides me and her? Think out loud with us here. Andy, take me off mute.
Are you thinking like social media?
Sure, I'll take it.
Promoting it on social media, your services, what's happening in the market, catching their eye.
Okay, hold on. Not how. I just want to know where. Good job.
Yeah.
Good job. I'll take it. And I'll make a differentiation between a new agent's sphere of influence, what that means versus social media, because we have sphere on social because it's mostly our friends and family, etc. But I'm going to make a distinction here because I'm going to use social media, Andy, to become that expert in the marketplace. Okay. So yeah, go ahead, Alan. What you got for me, bud?
You talk about hustle, your business cards.
Yeah, man.
Your networking, whether, at the club or,
Yep.
or, some civic organization that you're in.
Got it. Got it. I'm going to stay with it as a tactic of how to do this and bring it up next. So you and Andy, we're on the right path with what you're saying, but let me come back to Jessica and just nail this solidly so that we see strategy. Because, I really appreciate your comment today about this basic formulaic understanding. That's why I'm putting the buyers out there and cleaning up my board a little bit, okay? The purpose is we have to be strategic about marketing our services to people that we don't know to build up a database of sellers and buyers that we can find these ways, and then we can bring them through a conversion process, which I'm going to get into, okay? So, Jessica, of these 3, open house, talking to buyers directly, sphere of influence, talking to your friends, family, and seeing who all out there, and including, any professional relationships, who all out there knows somebody who's buying, or just going directly to social media and talking about the market in Burlingame and how it's doing, trying to get into conversations. Which one of those things would you do first as a priority like we did on the sell side?
Open house?
All day, every day. It's the knockout champion because it's the only place I can definitely meet live on that list. If anybody else can think of a live way to meet buyers, Just like, expireds are another way we can talk to them live, but an open house is the best because we meet them. By the way, subsequently at an open house, who else might we meet? A seller, right? So we got the double whammy. But the obvious is it's the bait. The listing is the bait for buyers. So I put it under there. What's next? And I'm going to differentiate. Calling friends and family and letting them know that you're out there, or just going straight to social media and becoming a social media presence in Burlingame real estate. Which one of those would you prefer?
Social media.
Okay, cool. I'll take it. All right. And sphere of influence we'll put last. I'll put a couple of bonuses down here. I'll put IDX/lead gen. Okay. I don't want to take it off the table, but I want to tell you how damn difficult it is before you go wasting your money on it. You better be an expert at conversion if you're going to play around with IDX and lead gen or Zillow or any of that. And you better have a business already. You would never jump to spending a lot of money on lead gen through Zillow, for example, if you're trying to be strategic. So I don't want to put a wet blanket on the party, but I think too many people rush right here with an expectation that that's strategic. It's not even remotely close to strategic, okay? And a lot of people go broke chasing that because that alligator of cost called Zillow, it's really expensive. And that alligator is always licking your ankles. And if you don't convert that cost to sales quickly, you can get devoured. All right, now next. The most important thing is this bridge between, if I market myself to these people, what do I say? So you got into a position early on in the call where you were talking to me. Let's go pick this. We're going to walk this strategically and come right back to it again. You have picked expired listings as your new number one. I'm going to come back to it. I want to go to what you were saying to your list where there's turnover, because you're used to doing that already and you're doing it. But you're having troubles because your tactic, your strategy was there. I organized it for you. Now I want to get tactical, which means what? When I go to convert people off of this list, all that list is a list of what we would call contacts who are leads. Lead is a disposition. Contact is the contact information, phone number, email, full name of the person who lives on the street where turnover is high. Now I'm ready to go and I got to pick up the phone and call that person, but they're just a lead, meaning what? We don't know whether they have any interest at all in selling real estate, right? Or for that matter, buying real estate. But since it's under our seller category, we have no idea. But our goal in conversion is to move that contact. Okay, the best outcome would be that we convert them to what we call a prospect, and then ultimately what we call a client. Okay, it's still a contact in the database. It's still the same thing. It's just contact information in the database. But what's changing is the relationship, also known as the context we have with them. So I called you off that street list when you were a lead, and I said something to you via telemarketing as my medium. Also known as a script, right? I said something to you in that conversion step off that list to hopefully turn you into a prospect. So let's define what a lead is. A lead is we don't know anything about them. Do they even have a house that they want to sell? Okay. Presumably the list was good. It's homeowners. So I know I'm not calling renters, I'm calling homeowners. Maybe I could get some better list criteria. Maybe now I refine the list on those high turnover streets. Is it someone who's been there at least 3 years, at least 5 years, at least 7 years, something like that? So now I can make the list better over time. I would cheat towards just the list of names of people on a couple streets to begin with until I began to learn. And what do I say? So now I come all the way back to that list and tell me what you said when you called them, trying to turn them into a prospect inside your database. Tell me what you said.
So what I usually say is, I'm calling to introduce myself. I'm a new agent with Realty. I've been doing my research, and I saw that your street has a lot of houses being sold. I was wondering if you are interested in buying or selling your house, and then they'll answer, and then I go, oh, okay, do you have anybody that you know that wants to buy or sell a house? And then I let them answer, and then that's when I come in with like, oh, is it okay if I could get your email to send you some information? And then that's pretty much it.
Okay, so here we go. Think with me like you did over here, and you led to your own strategic conclusions on how to better organize. Now we're into a tactic. Okay. How could that tactic be better? You've had some experience. What does your intuition tell you is wrong with your script, if anything? Think for a second. If you were on the other side of the phone call, living in that area with maybe a thought of selling, what would you want?
Maybe like some facts instead of just.
Oh, keep going. I think I heard something I liked, but you muffled. Say it again.
Maybe some like facts.
Okay, facts. You're saying facts. Facts, right? Facts. What kind?
Like, if they are planning or like thinking about selling, you give them a number on like how many houses were sold on that street.
Cool. All right, let's back it up a little bit. People are curious, right? And they like to be informed about what's going on in the neighborhood, but they don't really have enough time to inform themselves about all things. Crimes. I saw a sign down the street. What's happening? So what is the one piece of fact or information that you have inside of MLS just like that on their street? What could you dig up?
How many houses were sold?
How many is one thing, but that's by the bundle. What's even more specific? I'm leading my witness. Pictures and details about those properties that have sold. So if I want facts about my street and all the recent solds that have come up, what could you offer me?
How many was sold within the like certain amount of time?
You're missing the obvious, okay?
Oh.
You're right about that. Okay. Yeah. Hey, did you know that there's over 30 properties that sold on your street and the surrounding streets in the last 2 years? And in the last 6 months alone, there's been 10. Okay? That's a fact. Now, I'm not saying that's the opening for script. I'm trying to give you an internal dialogue. Hey, did you know I'm a realtor? I'm an insider. I'm on MLS. I'm looking not only at the list I got from those people, but then I went in and looked in MLS, pulled the same area, and it turns out it's right. There's quite a few properties that have sold on your street and the adjacent streets in the last couple months. And here's what it looks like. I've got a list that I was going to send you. May I do that? So now I bridge the gap from going from just telemarketing to something for them. But see, I'm not talking about me. I want to introduce myself. And who cares?
Okay.
Who cares? You got to give me something that's in it for me. I don't care about you until you care about me. Got it? So what's in it for them when you make that first call? You've got to think. What's in it for them? Well, with my team today, we talked about this concept of a package. If you're going to interrupt my life on a busy street and I'm thinking about selling, you better have something for me. So if you were to go in and to list the property, I know you probably don't know this as a rookie, what would you bring? Pictures and details of properties that sold on those streets that were most like them. Got it?
Yeah.
So even if they're not thinking about selling tomorrow, your service to that neighborhood with the high turnover to those potential sellers is, I would like to send you a package with the pictures and details and prices of all your neighbors' sales in the last 6 months. May I do that? By the way, I don't know if you were thinking about selling or you know anybody, but inventory is always scarce in this neighborhood. Do you know of anybody? So the idea is, if you're going to ask for something, you better first give something. And that all starts with the script. Hey, Jessica, Danny Griffin calling from Griffin Realty Group. The reason I'm calling is because yet another house just sold in your neighborhood. I don't know if you saw it, but 123 Burlingame Avenue just sold for $1.25 million. Did you see that? So I call with a fact, which you were right about. I just sold. It doesn't have to be mine. It doesn't have to be Gail's. It can be just one on this street. But as a service, as a concierge service, as a real estate agent, you live and focus on Burlingame. You're calling to let them know that that's there. Hey, while I have you, I'm mailing people in the neighborhood, not just the pictures and details of that one, but everything that's sold in the last 6 months. I just want to verify that the address that you have is this one. Is that right? I'd like to send this out to you in the case that you know anybody who's thinking about selling. It's a pretty good seller's market in there. So I wanted you to have this information in case you or somebody else is thinking about selling. It's a whole different vibe, but it starts around what for these people on the turnover? It's called a just sold. And it's information that's relevant to that lead. And it allows me to gain some sort of a reciprocal relationship where they're thinking about maybe at least allowing me to talk to them a little bit longer. You got it?
Yes.
So your script is birthed out of thinking what's in it for them if I call them. Now I go to expireds and I think the same way. I say, Jessica, it's Danny Griffin calling from Griffin Realty Group. The reason I'm calling is because I saw your beautiful house online in Burlingame and I noticed it didn't sell. So I wanted to send you out some information that will help you sell it the next time. May I do that? Now, I didn't talk about me. I talked about information that could go to them to help them sell it next time because I know it didn't work out the first time. So I have something in it for them. Jessica says, well, what's in it? Well, there's a cover letter that explains pictures and details of properties that sold around them that were a little bit above and a little bit below their price and the seller course. And that will help them sell it the next time because it will give them insight into what sold when they didn't and the 7 steps they have to go through. Here, have it as a gift. Now, all of a sudden, in telemarketing to expireds in Burlingame, you are the only one that is offering to send some helpful information, just like you did to the turnover street. You're sending information. What they want, even if they don't define it right up front, is pictures and details of properties that sold in their neighborhood. They want pictures and details of properties. Ask Zillow and Redfin how much people want pictures and details. So when you call up and physically say you're going to send it to them, it's a physical thing. That's a really nice offer to these people. You don't tell them I'm going to send you what you need, my plan. You instead say, I'm going to send you some information that will help you sell it the next time. I will send you some information that gives you more insight as to what's happening in the neighborhood in case somebody wants to sell. And in case it's you, I'll include some information in there. So it ends up being the same stuff I send. It's just that I speak to them differently because there's different context. Hey, Jessica, it's Danny Griffin calling. The reason I'm calling is I noticed you were the administrator of the estate of Sally. So what I wanted to do was send you out some information that will help you get through the probate process. May I do that? Yes, you may. In the case that there's real estate involved, I'll also include some pictures and details of property that are selling around that property. Okay? So I can segue it. It's a little bit more of a two-stepper, but now I'm beginning to see the similarity is get them pictures and details of properties, get them the plan, and that changes the relationship and allows you to do what? Make a second call once they're a prospect to determine, okay, you're a new prospect, you allowed me to send it, can I turn you into a follow-up prospect? You were new first, and so my initial script is, can I send you something? Yes, you may. Great, I'll send it. Is this the address? Yes, that's the address. Okay, great. I'll follow up to make sure you got it. Fine. Hey, Jessica, it's Danny Griffin calling. I want to make sure you got that information I told you I would send you to help you sell your house the next time. Did you get it? Yes. Thank you. It was helpful. Wonderful. You know, I was just thinking, I'm always trying to keep up on a market in Burlingame, and I thought the house was great. Would you mind if I stopped by sometime for the nickel tour or the quick tour of the property so I could see what's off market? Well, I'm not really ready to sell yet. No, I understand, but I just like to know what's there, and I want you to be able to put a face with the package. It's so different when you give first, and now you ask for what you really want, to meet them face to face. Why do you think I love open houses so much? I don't have to go through all this. I can be sitting there with a seller package and a buyer package at an open house because they want to come in and curious. The neighbor wants to see what the neighbor's selling for. The buyer wants to see what it looks like. That's why I love open houses above all this stuff. Because I can spend 90 minutes, and even if I get one person, two people, I can have a very substantial conversation. And if I can parlay it up the hill, I've got the information. That's it. So no matter what it is, now it gets a little bit more esoteric when I don't have the contact information to begin with. But it's the same concept on social media. Watch. If I take the facts about Burlingame, some recent solds, they don't need to be yours. You can give a market update on what's selling in Burlingame on a regular basis. Hey, here's everything that sold in Burlingame this week. Boom, you put it up there. Right?
Okay. Yeah.
So it's all the same when you follow a basic strategy. It's about what information did we put out on social? What information did, instead of calling a sphere of influence all our friends and saying, hey, do you know anybody? Hey, did you know that in Burlingame, you're telling all these people who are living in Burlingame who could refer you, did you know this about this? So the same information you put on social, you're telling to your sphere of influence, is the same information you're sending to these people, and you're simply calling them and telling them you're sending it. It really is quite simple. So the idea that the basics of our business, you must know what's going on in Burlingame. You have to know what's going on. So Gail has these market updates that, we came up with in this group to tell how's the market. See, essentially what you're doing is telling everybody here how the market is in Burlingame. Some people, you're more specific. If they're expired, you can be more specific because you know how much they were on for. You know what street they were on. So you can send some information that's more pertinent to them. If it's more general, like social, you go a little bit higher level and talk about the whole town of Burlingame. All right, questions about that, Jessica, and then I'm going to open it up for Q&A. Thank you for being my guinea pig. I hope that didn't confuse you. I hope it simplified you. I do want you to go back and watch the video, though, because I wrote it all out on a whiteboard for you, okay?
Okay.
Cool.
No, I don't have any question, but it did help me understand on how to improve my call.
Yes, your offer is non-existent, okay? You're asking, to be all about you. It needs to be all about them. That's the big gear shift here, okay?
Yes.
Cool. All right, Kate, you're only on Facebook, I think, unless you called in too. So, yes, lead, we don't know anything about their timing and motivation along the continuum. Alan, you want to add anything to this? Andy, anybody want to ask me any questions today? Jessica did a great job of sitting in my hot seat because she came in first. Questions or thoughts about this basic approach for strategy to buyers and sellers?
No questions.
Hang on, Alan, go first, and then whoever was speaking up next, go ahead. Go ahead, Alan.
Yeah, I was going to say, there's no questions on my end. I mean, I think it's what we've discussed in the mastermind group.
Yep.
And you break it down into just some really basic features. And It's good.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, and I appreciated your comment today that after all these years, it's beginning to become clearer to us, even at a mastermind level, because when you're trying to run the whole business or you have the big vision, it's very easy to get paralyzed. But you can see breaking it down for new agents like Jessica, who's working with Gail, it's very easy to see the tripping points, right? I mean, we've got one idea for a list of high turnover streets, which is not bad, but we've got a more specific bogey in expired listings. But the same kind of information is being offered to both. It's just being scripted differently so that the conversation flows with the context of the person we're calling. That's all.
Yeah, that was one of my big epiphanies on the call earlier, as I made the notes. And the intro is always the same. Hi, I'm Alan Smith at Alabama Thalman and Associates, and I noticed. What did you notice? Their house expired. Their beautiful home came off the market. That they may be the executive for an estate. That whatever. It's those beats are the same, and you're just tweaking it ever so slightly for their specific need. And ultimately, you're providing them information, them help, them guidance, and then you ask them, "May I do that?" And they're either going to say yes, no, or go pound sand.
Exactly, and it's always backed up where you're fortified. Is you're always backed up by thinking about the basic of the information package, which is pictures and details of properties that may be relevant to them, right? So when you're doing the open house as a strategic approach, we have the lead capture form, meaning the sign-in form, that tells us their name, their number, their email, their realtor, so we know whether they have one or not. Then they get in exchange for that what they came for, which is the pictures and details of that house. But then if there's an opportunity to go to the next level because they're not encumbered by a relationship with an agent, we have the package that we're offering these people. Hey, look, I took the liberty to bring other properties and their addresses, okay, that were in this general neighborhood in generally the same price, but I went even one step further and I added some sold so you can see what the money's buying. So while you're here, you can make the best use of your time and see what the money's buying. So now all of a sudden I've gone...
I'm just going straight in.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm just going straight into that in the open house. People, what I'm finding in the open houses, and I've been doing quite a few lately over the past year, and it seems like they walk in, you've got about maybe 15 seconds, and I let them, walk around, but as they come back through, I just say, hey, I took the liberty of pulling all the homes that are for sale in this neighborhood, as well as the top 10 sold, so you can see what's going on in the area. Would you like that information? And sometimes I'll say no, and other times I'll say sure. And so it's branded. It's got all my information on it, and I'm going to give it to them.
Right, but Alan, the idea is the lead capture is taking place already, right? So in other words, you signed in. I know you don't have a realtor. And so now I'm going to give you all this branded information, which is the package also that I would mail out if I had called you, right? Here it is. And see, for buyers and sellers, it's the same. I don't think we ever think about buyers the same way. We always think it's all about what's for sale. Why? The number one thing in representation is to make sure you get their financing in line and then align the financing or what they can afford with the features that match up. And then you get out and you go tour some with them, right? So the solds... Yeah, go ahead.
It's interesting too. So I go in, early into the open house, get everything set up, which means I have my buyer infographic, my seller infographic, my seller booklet, my buyer booklet, and then the stats, my market, my market update. And stapled to my market update, I do all the houses that are available in that neighborhood right now, all price points, and the top 10 sales. And I leave some of that stuff, they just pick up. And I'm fine with that because, for me, you're only giving out, in an open house in 2 hours, you may only have 10 or 12 sets of people through. So it's not that expensive. I don't know, that's just my approach because not everybody's going to sign in. And
Alan, I get it, but I would be more intentional. Like we talked about today, the evolution of what we saw at the mastermind level with, you heard Laura, you heard me live talking to Laura in the background saying, look, are we still sending out to everybody? Nope. She's given 3 weeks to try, make sure they don't come back on. But if she thinks it's worth the pursuit because they didn't come back on, she's going to send the package, see if that helps somebody pick up the phone, or even call her, even, better yet. I wouldn't just be so whimsical about my approach to it. Because my gut is, after listening to what you just said, is I think you might be letting the tail wag the dog. Hey, thanks for coming to the open house. Sellers asked that I have everybody sign in. If you wouldn't mind doing so, I'd appreciate it. Okay? So, and once you're done doing that, the feature sheet for the property with the pictures and details, and we should state this explicitly, are right there. So now you've made them go through this. Now, I'm not saying that everybody is going to go so easily. Yeah, you might get one guy, oh, no, I'm just a neighbor. Okay, don't worry about it. Take it easy, you fruitcake. Go ahead. Okay? Seller asked me to do it for security purposes, but if you're a neighbor, I'm going to assume you're not going to steal anything while you're here. Go ahead. Right? So, but your job is to be the maitre d', because remember, I've got this strategy up on the board. Like, this is how you're going to build a database of prospects who are being serviced by you to get more detailed information that's more relevant to them. And what did I say to my team? The more and more we can do that in our database and our service, you're raising these two walls up around the relationship, and it's less likely that they'll cheat on you or go to somebody else when the time is right. The more you serve them, the more you give to them, the more information. But realtors just can't seem to get it through their heads, and they all deal with this position of scarcity. Oh my gosh, if I do that and they cheat, well, then you're not doing it right. Like, I just took Jessica through it, and I could see in 30 seconds, but I had to walk her there. Her script was terrible because it was all about her. So now I throw her onto a list, and now she sounds like everybody else, and she's wondering why it's not working because nobody's ever taught her. You got to give them something that's in it for them. Well, what do you mean? Properties in details. She had it right. She said the facts. Good. What facts? Pictures and details of properties that sold in the neighborhood, so you know what's going on and you're informed. Right?
Yeah.
That's it. It's a simple tweak when you stick to it, but everything is intentional. If we think like business people, that open house becomes more intentional. I get it, but the high I in you doesn't need to give a package to everybody. If that person is like in deep with a realtor, why are you giving them a package?
Yeah, well, and that's good because I usually do ask, are you working with somebody?
No, you don't have to ask, Alan. There's no asking if they sign in and they put it down. There's no asking. It's already revealed by them to you. Okay? Now, if they blow you off, say, are you looking for yourself? Are you working with somebody? Why didn't you want to sign in? Again, we're losing control out of over the intentionality of this. This is a business. Right? Nobody just walks into the front of a restaurant, skips by the maitre d' and goes sits themselves down without getting an ear full of shit, right?
Correct.
Okay, so why are we doing it?
Very good question.
Right. And why would we ever buy a lead and not say the right thing that's in it for them? Hey, it looks like you're looking for a table for two. Is that right? Did you have reservations with us? No. Okay, no problem. Let me see if I can fit you in. It's just all very intentional based on the context of the moment. I don't have to be a rocket scientist when I pick up the phone and call somebody to figure out what their context is. And if I don't have any context and I'm trying to create one, hey, it's Danny Griffin calling from Griffin Realty Group. The reason I'm calling is I just want to let you know that your neighbor at 123 Main Street, Burlingame, just closed. They got a pretty healthy number. It was 1.25. And I wanted to send you out a package of information that includes not just that sale, but everything that's happened in the last 6 months. May I do that? Well, I'm not thinking about selling. No problem. I just wanted to be able to send it out as a service to the Burlingame marketplace in case somebody does come along that's a friend or yours. You think of me because I've sent you some information. I mean, it doesn't have to be rocket science, but there does have to be something in it for people. And who doesn't like to receive a gift of information that's relevant to them? Say, look, this information is relevant to you. Whether you're selling today, tomorrow, you can at least see where the market's at today and what the trend is.
Yeah.
So it all becomes very intentional. That's why I said I want to calm it down. The reason we don't see simple is because we're not intentional. You don't want to waste your money, time, and effort on people that are really in a relationship with an agent. You want to be courteous. You want to give them the feature sheet that they came for. You want to give the agent a courtesy call. Hey, Sally, it's good to, hear your voice. Yeah. Hey, by the way, Bobby, your buyer was in here today and he came through. Let me know if you can get me any feedback. Hey, Alan, thanks so much for the call. I appreciate it. That's all you need to do there.
Okay.
Yeah,
I like that.
because if you start giving Sally's client all this other information, Sally might think Alan's trying to poach him. Whereas Alan was there to protect him. So he built some goodwill with Sally, the agent, who 88% of the time is going to be on the other side of one of Alan's deals. We protect each other, and we only give away to people that don't identify somebody, right? Now all we've done is we've culled the herd, because those are the people. Hey, Alan, Danny Griffin calling from Griffin Realty Group. I noticed that your beautiful property online, it didn't sell. So I wanted to send you some information that will help you sell it the next time. May I do that? No, Alan, like Sally is my sister. Oh, geez, no problem. I'm still happy to send it to you. And you can use it with Sally if you like. Oh, sure, that's fine. Wonderful. Yeah, Sally's a new agent. She doesn't really know what she's doing. Well, in case it doesn't work out with your sister again, tell her I'd be happy to pay a referral fee if you need some more help. Boom. Whatever the circumstances are, we take the altruistic route to help where we can, but there's no obligation to go over the top for everybody blindly. I don't think that's good business.
Okay.
That way it pulls you in control. And Alan, it focuses you. Oh, wait a minute. There's that one guy that really doesn't have anybody. He is really staying here a little bit longer. He did pick up, like, he liked my offer. He's looking at the package. Hey, by the way, did you give me a good email on that sign-in sheet? Because what I can do, it sounds like you're only here for a couple hours today, but what I could do is put you on automatic updates from MLS. It would include those solds like that. I know you got your Zillow app and all that stuff. It's not the source. The source is actually MLS. So I'd be happy to do that for you. Would that be okay? So now you can upsell them too. And now you're coming back to your database, right? Which we're trying to build with a real prospect. Now I have a real prospect. I mean, if you got one a week, that's 52 people a week. I mean, a year, right?
Yeah.
That's crazy big. You change your life. But the less intentional you are about what your offer is to ingratiate them to you, then it doesn't allow you to get that continuous relationship online. See, I think the digital world's greatest benefit is our ability to follow up online over a long period of time and allow automatic emails to go and then call about those specific things. In the beginning, we're talking generally about what happened around them. But as they get prospected, now we're talking about more specifics with them and as it relates to them. That help?
It does. I appreciate that.
Cool. Awesome. All right, final questions, thoughts? Anybody need me? All right, hearing none. That's it.
This conference.
See you in a couple.
Danny.
Go ahead. Slowing it. Yep, go ahead. Who's that?
Hey, so it's Will.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I got the scripts down for probate.
This
I got the
conference
scripts down
will
for
now be recorded.
Hold on. I just want to turn the recording back on.
expired. I know the second calls, etc.
Yeah.
What about? So today was the first time I heard calls to neighbors. Right. That newer agent was great at it. Or I love that she's making those calls.
For
right?
sure.
And then you walked her through a script. Could you do it again for me, please, so I can write it down real fast?
Sure. Let me just see. Will, I have a prospecting mind map, okay, in XMind. So I'm going to it now. I will give you. Have you downloaded xmind.net onto your computer?
I think when I first joined you,
cool.
I could do it. I'll do it.
Well, the easiest way for me to give you all of the scripts I've messed with, I'm looking at it now, the mind map for the mastermind members, right? From prospecting, expireds, FSBOs, probates, circle prospecting or farming, buyer internet leads, follow-up calls, and then I've even got a placeholder for past clients. I've got a whole mind map. I'd say, why don't we defer you to that first, rip through it,
that's fine,
and then we'll look at it. Does that help?
Sure. So just go to xmind.com.
No, xmind.net. Make sure you get xmind 8. Okay, xmind 8. Don't get the Zen, that goofy thing, but they have xmind 8. And I am now going to email you the Xmind file, but you need that software, which is free, to open this.
Got it.
That's why I'm sending you there.
Cool.
Okay? So it's on its way.
Alrighty,
It's on
that
its way to
works.
you. Yep. It's on its way to you.
And that has a script. And that has a script for calling.
It's got
neighborhood.
everything. It's got everything, including like objections and thoughts and
All right.
yeah.
All right. Sounds good.
Awesome. All right. What else? Any other questions?
Thanks.
Yeah, you bet. Of course. You're welcome. I didn't mean to cut anybody off. If there were some more questions, I always forget that you guys are probably on hold. Jessica, any final thoughts, questions?
No, I'm pretty set.
Okay, cool. So we want to get with Gail and make sure she knows what you and I talked about here today. So you want to download with her, okay?
Okay.
Excellent. Good job, and thank you for being on time, and thank you for participating. And the rest of you, appreciate y'all as well for participating. We'll see you on this side. Have a wonderful rest of the week, but I will be on that sales training call tomorrow too. See you then.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Thanks.